Guys, it is Aoife from Fred Weasley Died Laughing and I'm here to do my weekly wrap up. I got 3 books read this week and I really enjoyed all of them and I'm going to tell you all about them now. The first book I finished this week was Love Me or Leave Me by Claudia Carroll. This is the last book I had left after the 1000 Pages readathons, and this one is a very fun book. This is an Irish author and it's set in Dublin, which I always love, and also one for the Irish readathon if anyone is interested as well. So this one follows a girl called Chloe who works in a hotel, and when we first meet Chloe in this book, she is after getting dumped at the altar. So she was just about to get married and then her husband-to-be decided that it wasn't for him, and she's left completely embarrassed, and she ends up going to London for a couple of years just to kind of get away from everything, and now she's kind of finally decided that she's going to make her return to Dublin, and she ends up getting hired as a manager to this new hotel that's been opened up. And this hotel is a little bit different to other hotels in the case of that it's the people that stay in it are all couples who are getting divorced, so they're supposed to stay in the hotel for a few days, and during those few days they get kind of there's lawyers there to talk through, like, you know, things to do with their marriage and to split assets and stuff like that. There is like kind of like a meditation mediating sessions as well, where they can kind of air out grievances, and the whole thing is supposed to be that it's supposed to make like a divorce a lot easier, and it kind of gets couples away from the bad vibes that would be a courtroom and the nastiness of a courtroom. Everyone is kind of happier. So obviously that's kind of the dream on paper, but when Chloe starts the hotel and the first couple start to come in, there are a few that make things a bit troublesome for her. It's a really fun read. It was very quick. I just enjoyed being along for the ride of it. I will say I found Chloe's own storyline definitely was overshadowed by all the couples that came in, because we get loads of different kind of point of views. She's kind of supposed to be our main character, but the few women from the 3 couples that we're following as well, they kind of become like, I wouldn't say main characters, but like kind of big side characters as well. We are following their stories and their feelings while they're staying in the hotel, and we're seeing how Chloe kind of helps them and becomes friends with them as well. But I definitely, when we were getting kind of just like just Chloe's point of view, I didn't really care about her story. I wanted to go back to the couples and I wanted to know what was happening with them. I found that some of Chloe's, the things that were supposed to kind of cause her trouble, or like things that were supposed to be the big point in her story that she was to overcome, it just happened way too easy, and there was no really big like bump in her road for her, so her journey did end up being a little bit boring, and the romance was very, very predictable as well, which, you know, sometimes they are when it comes to these kind of novels. That's just the way it is. I did enjoy it, but it was definitely predictable. There was no surprises there whatsoever. One of the things I did really enjoy about this one is obviously it's set in Dublin, so a lot of the places that is mentioned I knew, and the hotel was actually set on the same street that I work in, so that was really fun. And they go to a park that like I go to all the time for my lunch, and yeah, that was just really interesting. I just like that little bit of it. So, oh, and I will say there was a point in this book, there is one character who is bisexual in this, and it's supposed to be like this kind of twist in the story that this character is bisexual, and obviously, you know, sexuality shouldn't be used as a plot twist, and this was published in 2014, I think, and there are just some things said by some of the characters about bisexuality, like basically saying that it's just one road to being like 100% gay, and bisexuality, like, it isn't a real thing, which are just such dangerous comments to make and is really wrong and shouldn't be in a book. And yeah, so that was like definitely rubbed me up the wrong way when I read that, and I just thought like, whoa, like that would never be published in a book now. But I think it just goes to show like it's slightly dated in that way, and it just goes to show how far we've come. If in 2014 that kind of thing could be just published in a book, and now, you know, obviously now it wouldn't be. It's only a very, very like small, it's literally like one paragraph like in the middle of the book, and that's it, and it's never really mentioned again. But yeah, there was definitely that thing that I just wanted to mention. Overall, I did enjoy this. Apart from that bit, I did enjoy this book a lot, and I gave it like a 3.5 to 4 stars. The next book I read was Purple Hibiscus by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, and this is one that I've had on my shelf for a while. I'm really glad that I was able to read it. It's just been one of those books that's just been calling out to me lately. So this is set in Nigeria. We are following a 15-year-old girl called Kambili, and we quickly learn that she lives with her mum, her dad, and her older brother, and it seems to be that her father is a very controlling man. He's quite a religious man. He is a man, they're quite well off, and they're very well thought of in like society, and her dad seems to be like a very generous man. He's very like church going, but when he's kind of home and behind closed doors, he just doesn't treat his family right, and there's definitely like like Camilla is just like scared of her dad all the time. She loves her dad, like she loves her dad so much, but she's also terrified of him, which makes her life quite hard. And we see her at one point she goes to visit her aunt for a while. Her and her brother go and stay with their aunt for a little while, and the difference that just being away from their father creates for both her and her brother, and the little bit of independence and personality they start getting back when they're actually able to think for themselves and do their own thing, and they're not afraid to like laugh too loud, or you know, they have time away from just homework and chores and all sorts of things. It's very, very interesting. The relationships in this book I really, really enjoyed reading about. This is also kind of, there's some sort of like, there's a little bit of political unrest in Nigeria at this time as well. I think it's a coup, military coup, which does kind of affect how people are living, particularly her aunt, because her aunt wouldn't be as well off as her dad. And we see how her dad has treated his own father, because his own father never converted to Catholicism, and her father has a lot of different opinions by people who are heathens and pagans, and you know, don't follow Catholicism, aren't Catholics. And it's very interesting to read about, and I just really, really enjoyed the setting of this. I enjoyed seeing a different way of life, characters who are completely different from me, and learning about the way they lived. I just really enjoyed that. I thought Billy as a character and how she kind of comes out of herself and how she views things was just so interesting to read about, and those little moments that you start to see her blossom a little bit away from her father, but also that struggle that she has consistently throughout this book of her father not being a good man, but also not being a good man within the home, being a good man outside the home but not in the home, and then the fact that she loves him so much and she's just struggling with all these feelings about what she should feel towards her father, what she should say about him to other people like her aunt, and also trying to protect her mother as well, who definitely has like a really, really raw deal. I will say the end of this wasn't like particularly, like, it didn't particularly make me like happy in any way. It's not particularly a happy ending. So yeah, it's a little bit not a complete downer, but it's definitely not the way I would have wanted things to end. There's like a little bit of hope there, but there's not like loads. But I did enjoy the writing, and I did really enjoy Camilla as a character. And yeah, I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. I really, really enjoy books set in Nigeria and written by Nigerian authors. So if anyone has any other suggestions for me, any other authors that I might not know of, please leave them down below, because it's definitely an area in the world that I want to read more fiction from, particularly fiction. But yeah, I just the stories I've read in the past that have all been set in Nigeria, I've just really, really enjoyed the writing. So I would love to read more and just know of more authors who are writing books set in Nigeria. So yeah, that'd be great. And the last book I read was The Winter Crayon by Elizabeth Chadwick. This is the second book in the Eleanor of Aquitane series, and this book was my oldest book on my Kindle. So this book has been on my Kindle for about 6 years, and I have finally read it, and I'm just so happy with myself, and I absolutely loved this book. So this book is the second in the series. As I said, we are following Eleanor of Aquitaine, who was the Queen of England and parts of France for a while in the 1100s, I think it was. And she was married to King Henry II. I think it was King Henry II or the Third, and then her sons were Richard the Lionheart and King John. And she is basically just a really, really interesting woman to follow, because she had land in her that she inherited from her father, and then she became the obviously she became the queen, but she's also married to King Louis of France before that. So she was married twice, and she had children with King Louis, but she never gave him a son, and he eventually annulled that marriage, and then she married King Henry, who was like 10 years younger than her at the time, and she ended up giving him a bunch of kids and a load of boys, and to carry on the reign. But in this one we are following her as she's the very start of the book, she's pregnant with her second child. So she's had her first child with King Henry, and she is pregnant with her second one, and her whole fears a lot of the time is that she wants to be useful, and she wants to be treated as a respectful woman, like a queen who's able to help in the kingdom, and help take control when her husband is away, you know, with different things, and when he can't be there to look after things. She wants to be able to do that, and she wants to be respected enough to be trusted to do that, and she doesn't want to be used as just like a broodmare. She doesn't want to be used just to pop out all these children. Yeah, this seems to be the kind of road that she is being pushed upon. And obviously she loves her children, and she loves like having children, but she doesn't want to be just used for that. And we are seeing her struggle, and we are seeing her being this really, really educated, strong woman. She's consistently just like pushed aside and just not valued enough by her husband, and then eventually slightly by her children as well when her sons grow older. She is just not treated as well as she should be, and I just really enjoyed following her following her journey and all the different things that she did. And yeah, it's just one of those weird things that I just really enjoy following a woman's view of the world during history, and seeing those things that aren't really reported in like history books, and just seeing what it was like for Eleanor being shut away and having to have all these children while still struggling to maintain a sense of her own identity as someone who is not just a mother but is also a queen and a ruler in her own right, and she wants to keep going back to Aquitane in France and rule that, but she also has a lot of trouble there too. She's, as I said, just a really interesting figure in history, and I know she goes on to rule for quite, not rule, but she goes on to become quite, I think, a figurehead when King Richard is king and then King John. So I'm presuming the third book, which I think is the Autumn Throne, the third book probably focuses on that, which I'm very eager to read, and hopefully I will read it a lot sooner than I did between the Summer Queen and the Winter Crown, because that was way too long. I just really love Elizabeth Chadwick's writing. Her historical writing is brilliant, and I just love this time period because I don't know too much about it now. I feel like I've read so much of the Tudor stuff now that I kind of feel like, while I still love it, I get a little bit bored when I'm reading some new things, because I still know the history so much now and I know what's happening, and a lot of it isn't new to me, where a lot of this stuff is new to me in terms of reading it as historical fiction. So I've been really enjoying that. I give this a 5 out of 5 stars. Just really enjoyed it. Just really enjoyed this trilogy so far, and cannot wait to read the next one. That's everything I read this week. Please let me know if you guys have read any of these books, what you guys are reading. I would love to know, and I'll see you guys again next time. Bye.